Emmett Till's mother, when Emmett Till was murdered, insisted, and he was lynched during the freedom struggle, she insisted on an open casket funeral and had reporters come and take pictures and, distribute them to the, to the media, because she wanted the world to know what had happened to her baby. And Pamela is of the same mindset. She asks that we all bear witness to this so that we take action. And bearing witness can be painful, but it's critical. It's critical to change. And Mamie Till changed the course of American history.
This film, this documentary, is the #1 film on Netflix right now. What is that like, especially when you think about sort of the core reasons why you were making the film, to see that it now has this massive audience?
I think for us, first of all, thank you all for being here, because considering that it is on Netflix, we weren't sure that anybody would turn out, but this shows that the theaters still matter. And, again, that film, film lives, so thank you. I think for us, having it out in the world, because it was something we've been carrying since, honestly, 2023, when we lost Ajika. So for our team to see it out in the world and what it's doing and the life that it's having is really incredible. And Ajika was, again, a really vivacious young person with a lot of big dreams, and she had this, she used to tell her mother, she wanted to be an entrepreneur, and she used to tell her mother that one day the whole world is gonna know my name. And her mother would kind of laugh at her, and sometimes her business ideas, but she was like, just you wait. Well, one of the last conversations they had, that's what she said to her. So I feel like it's almost, we have fulfilled sort of a promise that to her family, but also something, it's her legacy in a way. We see this as her legacy. So thank you all for being part of it.
Yeah. Alisa, Nikon, what was this weekend like? Did you expect that maybe you would have this many conversations of people immediately watching this film?
Before, after, I was crying like a baby. Yeah, it's surreal. We had no idea it would connect to so many people in this way. We had no idea, behind the scenes, the team is checking and figuring out we're #1 in the US and UK, and what does that mean? We're hearing a lot of conversations happening, seeing a lot of conversations happening on social media, and trying not to watch the harsh critics, but listen to the ones that are bringing up really evocative talking points, right, and inciting conversations. And it's taken on a life of its own. Even my 18-year-old thinks that it's cool because we're trending on TikTok.
Yeah, we've been with this film and with this family since 2023 in the summer, right? So seeing it on a platform that has gotten so many views, it is surreal, like what everybody's saying. And when we look at the comments and I see people like on Instagram and they have it in the background and they're talking about it, it's like an outer body experience for me, because I'm like, they're talking about this thing that we did, but at the same time, this is like, it's his own life. Like it's not us at this point, so yeah, special.
Yeah, that's so fascinating to hear that you're seeing people use the film or reappropriate it on TikTok, because I think one of the standout parts of this film is that the format or the filmmaking approach is innovative itself. Well, Geeta, first, how did you come to be the person telling Ajika's story, and how did you come to realize this was the right approach, sort of incorporating hours and hours and all different perspective footage that you were able to find, body cams, et cetera?
So this story really came to us because Ajika Owens was a friend of our family, and when I say our, Nikon is my producer, is also my life partner, and we have a relative who lived in Ocala. She's still in Florida, but not there, and she was Ajika's best friend. And so that is how the story came to us. It was immediately, the night that she was murdered, we heard about it. Nikon, do you want to tell the rest of the?
Sure. Yeah. So we went to Ocala right after, we found out about this. It was like a day after, and we wanted to raise awareness in the media. We didn't just want this to go away. We didn't want, Susan to just walk, because she wasn't arrested immediately, as you saw in the film. So, so we wanted to raise awareness in the media. We went down and, just started gathering footage and stuff to get out there. And a couple of months later, the family lawyer, Anthony Thomas, through the Freedom of Information Act, he requested from the Sheriff's Department in Marion County, is where Ocala is. He got all of the footage, all of the media files, every time Susan called the police, anytime she made a phone call, the interviews, all of these things, he got it surrounding the case. And he gave us a bunch of files. He gave us he gave it to us on a thumb drive or something. I forget what he gave. I guess we downloaded it, as I think about it now. And it was just all of this footage, and it was hours, almost 30 hours of footage. And we started going through it, and when we looked at it, it told this story that we really didn't expect. We thought we were just gonna get stuff from the night of and maybe a couple of incidences, but it was things that went back. So if this happened in 2023 in June, it went back to 2021, 2022. So, as we looked at it, we like, this is a story. This is the movie that we want to do. And yeah, I brought it downstairs because we're in the same house. I brought it to Geeta and was like, look at this. I think this is where we should go with this.
Yeah, I think we thought, like Nikon said, it would just be a couple clips. But I used to be an editor too, so the footage was a big mess. It came in a huge jumble. And we actually, after Nikon was like, look at this, look at these files, we just kind of took it upon ourselves to really go through it and piece it together. And the sound, it's a little mono camera. You have multiple cops on scene, sometimes 2, sometimes 10 to 15. They were turning their cameras off and on, as you saw. And so it was just the footage. And then there was all those other materials. There was Ring camera footage, there's cell phone footage, there's audio, detective interviews, audio phone calls. And trying to figure out the chronology was really a challenge. Some of the body camera footage obviously might have a date or might have been but in a file or in a folder with a date. But the rest of it, we had to just piece it together. So it took me a couple of weeks. I was the AE, the assistant editor on the film. I strung it out, and then we really saw what there was. And we realized that the cops inadvertently functioned like multi-camera, that there was something here that could play like a narrative film. And to me, like a thriller, we wanted to create something that played like a horror film, because we believe that the community, again, what they were experiencing was akin to that. But we also wanted to paint a picture of what this community was like before the incident, because you never see that. You hardly ever see it, right? Unfortunately, shootings happen almost every week in the US. There's another terrible incident, and you only see the aftermath or the immediate aftermath. But with this, you could really see this beautiful little community as they were, living together, raising children together, this tight social network. Again, an interracial community, and Susan was this one outlier with a gun. And again, but what was fascinating about the footage too is it also showed Susan's perspective. We are filmmakers first, so we wanted to give a 360. We wanted to show how all the incidents leading up to this and the intersection of so many things that you see in here, the intersection of law enforcement, race, et cetera, the weaponization of the police, et cetera, and how it led to this, disastrous outcome, left unchecked. And I think too, body camera footage is fascinating because can be for Black and brown folks, it is a violent tool of the state, often used to dehumanize us and criminalize us. And we wanted to subvert the use of it, and not in the sense of changing the actual events in any way, but by using it to highlight the humanity of this community. And again, the police didn't intentionally capture that, but they did. So we wanted to really lean into that and show again, the community as it was, Susan as she was, and we felt it was undeniable because it was this footage, that we were not on the ground influencing the outcome. This is exactly things as they happened. So.
Yeah, I found it interesting, the subversion there about, like you said, there's a hesitation around body cam footage, but here it really humanizes everyone. I think as well, often the idea of like a Karen, it has become this viral thing that people somewhat treat with humor. And I think with this film, maybe the subversion or sort of the difference is that it highlights that, no, this is a dangerous problem. And so I think, was that something you all were thinking about sort of in shaping the footage around Susan?
Do you guys want to talk about that? Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, as you said, we jokingly talk about Karens, but the thing about Susan was that she was really dangerous. And as Geeta said, she was weaponizing her privilege, her white privilege, as her woman privilege, et cetera. She knew that the people on the other side were people of color. The reason we have 2 years of footage is because she was actually premeditating a defense, right? So she was building this up. And what she knew is that the police would come, and yes, they're kind, but they wouldn't do their job effectively, right, with her being the person on that side and the community being on the other side. Oftentimes when we come into rooms like this, people say, well, oh, the police were so kind. And we say, yes, they were. However, the worst possible outcome happened on their watch. And so it's okay to be kind, and I think in this country we expect that the police is going to come guns blazing, but at the end of the day, the result was that this woman was killed, and her 4 children are motherless. And it also really disrupted the community. Only one of those families still live on that street.
The other thing too, I would just add to this, and I point this out too. I think it's important to point out also that the system that failed the community also failed Susan, because she, again, her access to a gun put her also ruined her own life. She is ostensibly in prison now for 25 years, as you saw in the film. If there had been some kind of intervention, earlier, that you see the police again, as Alisa said, they did not. They did not intervene in a way that protected the community or also protected Susan from herself. So these are things we believe the film can raise.
You see the police officers treating her like an annoying Karen, but again, she was a harmful threat.
Yeah.
And the community knew it, and they were not listening to them.
Yeah. I think, and Nikon, I could ask you this as well. Has Susan seen any of the footage or given any indication that she has a new understanding, or is it still what we see at the end of?
We wouldn't know. She's
Yeah.
in prison where she should be. So I don't know what privileges she has.
Yeah.
We do know she did an interview a few months ago with the local news outlet, and she didn't seem to be, I watched a piece of it, she seemed to blame the children for this whole thing, so she kind of doubled down on her perspective. So as far as I'm concerned, no, she didn't seem to learn.
And Pamela Dias, Ajika's mother, has said that she has not shown any remorse.
It's still kind of square one. I think that it's incredible that the degree to which people are watching this. When it's already hard enough to get a film made, but especially there's fear as well that films with this type of message or films that inspire action just are so much harder to find a way for a wider audience to see them. I wonder, do you all feel like this unique filmmaking approach is part of the reason why maybe if a development or acquisitions person didn't feel susceptible to watching it, it was like, well, even if you aren't paying attention to the story, the approach is something to pay attention to?
So I think we had an interesting experience with this film because very early on, when we got our hands on the footage, we did speak to some places and our agents at that time, and we thought about taking it out. And when we talked to people, it essentially would have been, the way that they saw it was as a true crime procedural. And that was not the film that I wanted to make. I wanted to make something that was cinematic and artful and told the story in a certain way and maybe didn't fit into that box that we think of as true crime procedural. And in my mind, it wasn't true crime. It was a film about a crime, and it's so much more, right? But this was, again, before we took it out into the world. So we made the film, and then, like a lot of it for, with ourselves, we got a little bit of development money from one from one streamer, which was very kind, but they didn't end up taking the film. So we showed it to them and they didn't want it,
We were heartbroken.
we were like, what do you mean you don't want the film? But they didn't want it. But so we made it for very little money, kind of on our own. Park Pictures and SOB Productions also came on board to support. And then we went the route that a lot of indie films do. We were like, we'll go the festival route. We sent it to Sundance. We got in. And then we won an award at Sundance. We won the directing award. And then that is where Netflix came to us and offered to, for the film to be on the platform. And we really saw it as the best opportunity to fulfill, again, there's more an impact that we want this film to have, ideally around reforming gun laws and repealing Stand Your Ground. And thank you. And the only way, you need a groundswell to do that, right? So the idea of how we could get the most, being able to get the most eyes on that is a critical first part of that groundswell. So we felt that Netflix, again, with their global reach, was the best platform for us. And so that's how we got here.
And our company is not named Message Pictures for no reason. So we're not afraid of films with messages. And again, we think that our piece, we also had a series, Katrina Come Hell and High Water, that Geeta co-directed with Spike Lee and Samantha Knowles. But again, that was innovative, immersive, and we feel like that's our niche. And so it made sense to us to have this approach, and we weren't worried about it because we felt, and I'm not the artful one, but I looked at it and
I was worried.
And I knew
I was worried.
that we had something unique here.
Yeah,
So we
I wasn't
worried.
sure. When we sent it to Sundance, I was like, will anybody, have we lost, is this, we were, again, when you're immersed as an artist, you're just like, is anybody going to respond to this? Have we lost our minds? Or is this, and it's been very heartening to see the response.
But we were happy to take a unique approach. This was a very thought out process. This approach that we took, and Geeta, along with our editor, Viri Lieberman, to stay in that body cam footage, to move through the film from camera to camera as though it was one person who was shooting this with one vision, right? That took a certain kind of direction, that took a vision that we haven't seen before. So we knew we were doing something innovative with this, yeah.
Yeah. Just to wrap, of course, I can ask, what do you hope, or is there anything else you hope audiences take away from this? But I think, Nikon, you alluded earlier that this film is a conversation starter. And as Alisa, you were saying, some perceptions are oh, the cops were incredibly nice in this. And you sort of gave your perspective on how that highlights sort of the dangers of Susan. And so, of course, what do you hope audience take away from this? But also, now that people have seen it, is there any element that you would like to clarify or kind of clear up?
I'm on top of standing the gap.
So Geeta said one of the things, and she got a good clap on that, it was that we want to change gun laws and standing your ground legislation.
Yeah.
We also wanted to have Ajika's name go out into the world, and that was that. Pam Dias, we always say the mother of Ajika is made differently, and so herself and Nikon's cousin started a fund. Takima Robinson, who is their cousin Kim's older sister, is an activist, philanthropist, and they started a fund to pay it forward. When Pam's daughter died, she said she couldn't even see 2 feet in front of her face. And so there were so many needs that they had. They had funeral needs, mental health needs. There was a point where they were getting death threats, and so they needed security. And so they paid it forward and started Standing in the Gap Fund. And so the website is standinginthe.gapfund.org to help, one, fight the policies that are affecting mostly Black and brown people and people attacked in racial bias and racial violence, and also to help families affected by race-based violence. So we hope that everyone supports it. And I really think, I did a project called Stamp from the Beginning, and I thought because there was, thank you, I thought because there was such good policy work and the author was an academician that we were gonna change policy, but I do see when I read the chats, when we talk about it behind the scenes, we see how it's connecting with people. I think this has the power to make the change, and that's what we're hoping for.
The only thing that I would add to that is that also we hope that people see in this, again, this, this film I think showcases some of the worst things of our society, but it also showcases some of the best. So I hope people walk away from this too, remembering that beautiful little community, again, like an idyllic little community where kids were playing freely in the streets, where, families live together, support each other, again, have that strong bond. And that in thinking about this film, that, again, we think about how we show up in our own communities. That is really important. Like how, and I feel like this film holds a mirror up to our society, again, like with all the layers, the complicated layers that exist within it. And so that's part of it. I hope it inspires people to think about their neighbors. And, again, we could be the Susans, or we could be the other folks in the community, and I think that's what I hope people would aspire to. And Pamela Dias also, one of the things, when we thought we were going to make a film, we went to her, and I basically asked her, said, do you want this? This is something I could do for you. I don't know how to do anything else. I'm a filmmaker. I could do this. And do you want us to put this? Do you want us to? And she said yes. But she had she takes a lot of strength from Mamie Till, who's Emmett Till's mother. And if you remember, Emmett Till's mother, when Emmett Till was murdered, insisted, and he was lynched during the freedom struggle, she insisted on an open casket funeral and had reporters come and take pictures and, distribute them to the media, because she wanted the world to know what had happened to her baby. And Pamela is of the same mindset. She asks that we all bear witness to this so that we take action. She wants people to take action from that. And bearing witness can be painful, but it's critical. It's critical to change. And Mamie Till changed the course of American history. So it's something we can all do too.
Well, thank you all for joining us. Thank you all for joining us. And The Perfect Neighbor is now streaming on Netflix.